Hey everyone, today I'm talking about INFJ personality types, INFP personality types, and if we are too woo. When I say woo, I mean woo-woo. And when I say are we too woo, I'm asking the question, are we too woo for non-intuitive personality types? Because that's usually where we get this idea that we are too woo, we are too out there, we are too weird, is from non-intuitive personality types, other personality types that do not understand us. So maybe you personally dabble in such things or have a passionate interest in such things as astrology or tarot cards or energy work or crystals, any sort of fringe ideas. A lot can fall under the umbrella of the term woo or woo-woo, but maybe you have a passionate interest in this realm and your friends and family have made you feel bad about it. They either have made fun of you for it, or they've acted like you are being stupid or gullible or not logical. If you grew up in a very logical family, you know the worst thing you can be accused of is being not logical or illogical. And so you've had to hide it, but you've always been drawn to it over and over. I've talked to INFJs and INFPs who have said, I was raised in a very traditionally religious home, and so any sort of interest I had in the metaphysical or the esoteric or the woo-woo world was very strongly discouraged, and I was led to believe it was even dangerous or sinful. I needed to stay away from it. On the flip side, I've also talked to INFJs or INFPs who've said, I actually had a parent who was very woo-woo when I was growing up, very new age, very hippie, whatever you want to call it. And so I rejected it myself from a young age. And I didn't want anything to do with it because my mom or my dad or my aunt or my grandma or whoever it was really into it and kind of pushed that on me. And that didn't make sense to me either. So I really rejected that. But now as an adult, I'm coming back around to it. So you can have a variety of different experiences in your childhood and still come to this conclusion that anything on that side of life is bad or wrong or stupid or illogical, but yet you are still drawn to it. And I talked about this in a video I just did a few days ago about the metaphysical side of INFJs and INFPs and how we are right-brained personality types. So things that are on the woo side of life, they do tend to nourish us. They tend to draw us in. We tend to be very attracted to those things because those things help us approach life in a right-brain sort of way. What you've probably noticed, if you are someone who is drawn to woo interests, right? Anything I named, astrology, crystals, energy work, or anything else that comes to mind or that you are currently passionate about or interested in, what you've probably noticed is that those woo interests have helped you personally heal. They've helped you on your healing journey, and they've probably helped you figure out who you are to a great extent. There's a reason for this, and I hear this all the time in my classes. My students say, I'm not sure what it is. What you're talking about is not totally unknown to me. The concepts and the ideas that you're teaching and that we're discussing, I already have some familiarity with them or I've worked with them before. But for some reason, the way you're explaining them, it's really clicking. It's really hitting home. The pieces are finally coming together, and I wonder why that is. And I always say, it's because I'm providing an energy framework. I'm talking about it in terms of energy, using the language of energy, not just approaching it from a logical, linear, fact-based sort of way, which our society does all the time. If you're an INFJ or an INFP personality type, if you're an intuitive, then looking at things in terms of energy and using the language of energy, using an energetic framework to look at the world and to examine ideas, that is going to be so incredibly helpful for you remembering things, learning things, deeply comprehending things, getting such a strong grasp on ideas and concepts that you can apply those ideas and concepts in your real life. The logic-based, research-based, purely mental, intellectual side, we can do that, but that doesn't often help us heal ourselves or actually move forward in life. We're just sort of memorizing information, and we can usually regurgitate that information on command if we need to, but again, it's not really helping us in our own lives. It's not helping us to actually take steps in our own lives to move forward. When we get into woo interests, when we get into astrology, crystals, reading tarot cards, alternative spiritualities, whatever it is, and there's so much out there. We're usually using it as a framework for our own healing. We're using it as a way to go deeper into personal growth concepts so that we can really get them, so that the pieces really finally land within us and initiate an inner evolution. This is another way for us to understand reality. And I would even say it's a better way for us to understand reality because it comes more naturally to us. When you are looking at anything on the woo side of life, you're looking at things connected by a web. The idea of oneness, the idea of everything being interconnected, that's a core tenet of anything woo. And INFJs and INFPs really resonate with that. We already know that on a deep inner knowing level, but it makes sense to us on a rational level as well. And so when we can really take our woo interests and we can use it as an energy framework to look at our own relationships, our own work and career, our own health, that's when we start really growing and thriving, because it helps us understand. It helps us understand past events in our lives and the way things are now and where we want to go. We are naturally woo creatures if we would just let ourselves be, if we would allow ourselves to go there. It's just that it's so hard to embrace it if you're not in the right environment, or if you come from a family where it was very strongly discouraged, or if you currently have a spouse who doesn't get it, or you're in a friend group that really mocks that kind of stuff. It can be very hard to embrace that side of you. Also, that's reinforced by our society disparaging anything woo. There are a lot of people who see that as something that belongs to flaky people or spacey people or gullible people, right? You might not be taken as seriously, because woo really is a disruptor in spirituality, and it has been for a long time. And I think that's why there's such a surge in it that we're seeing now. I think a lot of the questions in traditional spirituality are coming up, right? A lot of our unquestioned assumptions in traditional spirituality are now up for examination, and people are asking, wait, why do we do this? Why do we have to do this? Why is this a rule? This doesn't make sense. This doesn't apply to me. I don't see why I can't do something different. And so we're seeing sort of this surge in interest in the woo, in alternative spirituality, in sort of this disruptor element coming into play. Because woo is always outside of any organization or any institution. Woo is something that is very strongly connected to creativity and anti-structure, right? So there's a lot of room for it to change shape, change form, come into being in different ways. It's not rigid. It's not a set of rules. It's not the same kind of energy that you'll find in an institution. Woo is outside of the box. Another reason that so many INFJs and INFPs are drawn to it, because we are also disruptors. We may be quiet, we might be introverts, we might sort of pass under the radar and be unnoticeable in a lot of social situations, but we really are disruptors. And I hear this from my students in so many of my classes. They say, if you saw me at the party or you saw me in a workplace, you wouldn't notice me. I look very plain. I don't draw attention to myself. I'm very quiet. I only speak when I actually have something to say. But inside, I have very out there ideas, right? I'm really pushing the limits. I'm really interested in things that are controversial, things that are fringe, things that are very eccentric, things that I don't think other people would understand. And I think every INFP and INFJ, we have that inner disruptor inside of us where we are really ready to sort of disrupt the traditional structures if it will be beneficial for the collective, if it will move us forward in a positive way. We are willing to do that. We don't want to cling to the old just because it's tried and true and predictable. I'm teaching a new class that's going to be talking about all of this stuff. It's called Life on the Woo Side. It starts Wednesday, September 25th, runs for 3 weeks, just like all of my classes. It's 3 weeks. Everything's recorded. You will get all the recordings, lifetime access. We're going to be talking about how to use our woo gifts, right? How to use them to increase our power as human beings, how to increase our personal power, and have more power over our lives, honestly, and use them to help spread our gifts into the world and enhance our healing abilities and our creative joy in life. So we're going to be talking about healing. We're going to be talking about creative work and creative practice and intuitive creativity. There's going to be a lot packed into this class. If you're interested in joining this class, please make sure you're subscribed to my newsletter. I say this in every video, and I know I'm just really driving it home, but it's so important that you subscribe to my newsletter because that's where I send everything out. My website is not often updated with any of the classes. They happen so fast, honestly, I just don't bother updating the website because I really connect with everybody in my audience through my newsletter. So please make sure you're subscribed to my newsletter. The link is below. If you have questions about this class or anything else, please send them to lauren@laurensapaula.com. And if you liked this video, if it was helpful to you in any way, if it really resonated with you, please like the video and please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.